In cells, the hydrophobic effect holds membranes together, structures proteins, and controls some protein-protein interactions. In this image, I'm showing two hydrophobic molecules, 4 carbons with hydrogens. Electrons are evenly shared between carbon and hydrogen, so there's no polarity. The hydrogen does not have more or less charge than the carbon. So these are nonpolar molecules without charges. There's a second one over here, and I've drawn them with water molecules in between them, showing the hydrogen bonding between the slightly more positive hydrogens and slightly more negative oxygens as these little purple dots. The hydrophobic effect is the effect of water molecules being attracted to each other, but not being attracted to these uncharged hydrophobic molecules. There's two ways to think about the forces involved. One is that the water molecules are constantly being attracted to other water molecules. As they move around at random, a water molecule that moves down to be closer to other water molecules tends to stay. There are too many hydrogen bonds holding them in place. So these water molecules that are between our two nonpolar hydrophobic molecules will wind up moving down to associate with the water. Over time, the effect is to take these water molecules and move them to be closer to other water molecules, which will push these hydrophobic molecules together. These water molecules move closer to other water molecules, more hydrogen bonds that they can form. These water molecules now form more hydrogen bonds, which makes it difficult for them to move in between the hydrophobic molecules, which stay together, not because they were attracted, but because water molecules were either pushing them out of the way or were moving out between them and then getting trapped, hydrogen bonded to other water molecules. The hydrophobic effect tends to put hydrophobic molecules or hydrophobic regions of molecules close to each other. As a sketch for yourself, you might want to do it more simply. Draw just a simple hydrophobic molecule, methane in this case, single carbon with hydrogens. You might even not bother to put in the hydrogens, as chemists often do, just assuming that any atom not shown is a hydrogen. Here are the water molecules, and I've shown some hydrogen bonding, but notice that there's water molecule partly between the two. If we move that water molecule near the others, it can form additional hydrogen bonds. The hydrophobic molecules wind up close to each other. The hydrophobic effect is important for membrane structure. Here is a bilipid membrane, carbon chains, and I haven't shown all the carbons, and the charged heads, and I've shown a plus charge. I've shown just a few of the water molecules with hydrogen bonding between that plus charge and the oxygen. What happens if a water molecule gets in between? Well, that water molecule in between is not bound to anything, and so it's bouncing around freely. If it ever happens to bounce out, it can form hydrogen bonds and has no tendency to move back in. The hydrophobic effect is keeping these hydrophobic tails, these carbon chains that just have hydrogens on them, close together because the water molecules are attracted to each other. Any water molecule that comes in has much less of a tendency to stay. Once it gets back out, is unlikely to re-enter. How does the hydrophobic effect alter protein structure? Let's say we have a peptide sequence, a series of amino acids here, that are all uncharged, so they're all neutral, and they're all nonpolar. They have a balanced charge. Here they are, spread out in a long chain through water, and here's some water molecules showing some hydrogen bonding between the hydrogens and the oxygens. If the protein wraps in a way that the amino acids are close to each other, it tends to stay that way. Water molecules tend not to go in because they're not attracted to anything in this hydrophobic set of peptides, but they are attracted to other water molecules. The hydrophobic effect causes this nonpolar, non-charged region of a protein to stay together. How strong is the hydrophobic effect? Covalent bonds are stronger than hydrogen bonding. The hydrophobic effect is really an effect of hydrogen bonding. Because hydrogen-bound molecules are staying together, the ones that are not hydrogen-bound stay together. So it's approximately the same as hydrogen bonding. Both hydrogen bonding and the hydrophobic effect are stronger than van der Waals forces, the subject of another video. What about ionic bonds? Ionic bonds that are protected from water on the interior of a protein with no water molecules nearby. That's a strong bond, roughly equivalent to a covalent bond. But if there's water around, hydrogen bonding will occur and the bond becomes weaker because of all the other charge nearby, closer to the effect of hydrogen bonding or the hydrophobic effect.